Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 183. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Dan Meadors, a multi-millionaire dollar Amazon seller and a co-founder of the Wholesale Formula. He has mastered the Amazon marketplace, growing his own business to over 17 million in sales. Dan and his team of experts now dedicated their time to teaching others how to grow and scale their own wholesale-based Amazon businesses. Dan's students have ranged from those with little or no Amazon experience to Amazon veterans who were able to take their business to the next level. He is passionate about sharing his knowledge with others who are just as driven as him. Hello, Dan.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Patience.
Thank you for coming. I know the clan he is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own business?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked after I graduated college. I went and worked. I was going to. It's funny because I was going to be a lawyer, and I can tell you a little bit more about that, the kind of story behind that. But in the interim, I went and got a job with a company that sold on the internet. They sold toys and games online, and I found out while I was there that I was incredibly passionate about online sales because the scalability behind it is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there's so many opportunities to scale, and there's so few restrictions when you're selling online that I just became really passionate about it. I was there for 5 or 6 years, and in the time I was there, we went and when I first started, we were doing about 1.3 million a year in sales, and when I left, we were at 25 or 27 million in sales. So I got to kind of like really be a part of the growth of that company and really see it from the inside out, what that kind of looks like. And but in 2011, I had started experimenting with one of my buddies, who actually worked at the same company, had come in one day and he turned in his notice, and he was one of the highest paid employees at that company. And I went to him and I was like, "Hey, Andrew, what is going on? Why are you leaving? Are you moving out of state or something?" Because we live in a very, very poor area, and this guy was making well over 6 figures, and those types of jobs just aren't available in Kentucky, particularly in our area. And when I asked him, he was like, "No, man, I've really just been selling on Amazon, and I make more money part-time doing that than I do coming to work." And I was like, "Wow, this is super cool." And he said he would kind of show us what he was talking about. Well, later on in 2011, I actually ended up getting terminated, and it was kind of a really odd spot because we had started tinkering with Amazon and we had been messing with Amazon for a few months, but it definitely wasn't anywhere near a business. But I just had a child. We had just bought our first house, and here I was, just got fired from my job. And I remember that day like it was absolutely awful. I went to me and Eric, my business partner, had rented this tiny little office. It was 250 square feet. It was like kind of like a broom closet downtown. And I couldn't go home. I couldn't face my wife and talk to her about what had happened. So I went downtown and I sat at our office and I cried I probably cried for 3 hours trying to think of what I was going to tell my wife and how I was going to pay the bills for with the new child and the new house and all that stuff. Well, eventually I decided on to go home, and I was going to be really confident because we were doing some level of business. It wasn't anything that would cover my life expenses or anything like that. But so what I decided on is I would go home and tell my wife that I had quit my job, and that was a terrible idea. She was like, "Yeah, you should go get it again. You should stop what you're doing and go and tell them you want your job back." And well, I didn't end up doing that, but I really focused and doubled down on our Amazon business. And Eric, he actually came and joined me full time about 15 or 20 days later. And that's really where our Amazon business got started, was that January in 2012. And that year, I think we did, we had started with a $600 credit card back. And it was kind of funny because I didn't have any credit, and Eric just had poor credit. So we didn't have access to a lot of money when we started, and that was, part of that whole scaling up process in 2011 when we got started. But in 2012, when we were full time, our first year we did about $840,000, I think, in sales. And this was, it was going into what we were doing is we were going into physical brick and mortar retail stores, finding great deals on products, and then taking them and selling them on Amazon. And we use that to make, to generate $840,000 in sales. And it's surprising because we had great margins, but the problem is like I said, there's not a lot going on in Kentucky. Like there's not, to go to Target, for example, I have to drive an hour and a half. I'm just not near a Target. Like all we have are Walmarts and dollar stores and things like that. So whenever me and Eric were going out shopping at these stores, I mean, we were gone for 5-6 days at a time, just driving around the country in a van, loading up our van full of goods, and then bringing them back, processing them, spend a day with the family, and we were back out the door. So while we were making a good living, it was our quality of life just wasn't there. I wasn't getting time to spend with my new daughter. I wasn't at home very much with my family, and it was very difficult. And then the next year we kind of stayed that same course, and we even worked harder, and we only did $940,000 in sales. So despite like all that extra effort, we didn't do very much more in sales. And that was kind of the point where we really started looking for a way to change how we were doing business, so to make it a more convenient model that we were looking for. Like, whenever you start your own business, it always sounds attractive. But if somebody told you, hey, like you're getting ready to work 3 times as hard as you were, and if you don't work, you don't get paid, it sounds a lot less attractive. And then that's where we really started focusing on changing our business model to be something, to be more what we were looking for in our lives.
Wow. Oof. What a journey, what a background, Dan. Wow. You come far away, but yeah, you made it. You stuck to it. Okay. What is the most dangerous belief an online entrepreneur can have?
No, I think the most dangerous belief, and this is, whenever we were switching our model, this came up, and it's what, we were switching our model ultimately to, instead of going out looking for products, we wanted to start working directly with manufacturers and have them ship products to us, so we could process them at home, and rather than having to go find them, right? But that's where this, I think this is the biggest fear, and it's definitely the biggest fear. And that when I talk to students, and at this point we have thousands of students, and I hear it all the time, and it's they don't feel like they can do it. Like, even though it's been done, right? It's just a limiting belief set of I can't do this. I don't know. I don't have the knowledge. I don't understand. When in reality, the truth is you develop those types of skills as you're moving along. Just getting started will get you so much farther in that process than coming up with the thousands of reasons not to start. So I think that's the biggest hindrance to people getting started is just believing that they can't do it.
Okay, Dan, you've been in the business for a while now. Why do you do what you do?
No, I mean, ultimately, and this is, if you asked me this question in 2013 or 2014, I don't think I could have given you a great answer, because we were just working for money at that point. But now, I mean, now that we've reshaped our business and refocused it to be the business that we want, the biggest thing I love about being in this business is the freedom it gives me to help other people. So that's what I'm truly passionate about. Is I love working with people on their businesses and helping them see success. And we've created our business in such a way at this point that I have freedom to actually do that. As far as our business, our business is ran primarily with our employees and virtual assistants and through processes. So like our day-to-day interaction with our Amazon business is pretty minimal at this point.
Wow. Let's put man aside, because we've been working for a while now. How do you know you are successful?
I think that's a really good question. And for me, it's the impact I get to have in the people's lives around me, and that's through our students and a lot through my children. Now, I have a lot of freedom in my life through my business, and the impact I get to see with them and get to spend a lot of time with them and do things that other people may not be able to do, just enriches, I feel like that enriches their lives and ultimately is what I would consider my mark of success.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
That I mean, really, that people can achieve far more than they believe whenever they really do set their mind to it. Like a determined person can accomplish almost anything if they're willing to work forward through adversity.
Can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
I think almost anyone can be an entrepreneur to a degree, but I don't know if it's, I don't know that all people want to be entrepreneurs, because I think it takes a special person in that to handle the emotional ups and downs of it. I guess what I'm trying to say is inherently, yes, I think people could be an entrepreneur, but I think it's a lot harder than most people, particularly if they don't have the mindset and the want and drive to actually do it.
What is the 5 essential skills every retailer needs to succeed on Amazon?
I think the first one is the ability to create relationships. Like, relationships are a huge part of any business, and ultimately that's how we've seen the most growth. Is through relationships. It's relationships with our vendors. It's relationships with other sellers. It's relationships with, software companies and industry experts and things like that. I mean, you get so much knowledge just from those relationships, and I think it creates a lot of opportunity. The second one I would say is the ability to continue moving forward. I mean, and they're action oriented. Like, if you're action oriented, you see results so much faster, and you're able to make changes and really see massive growth in your business, as opposed to kind of taking growth as it comes. So I think being action oriented is huge, and not being a person that's crippled by fear is. I think that's another thing. But I kind of think that these aren't just unique to Amazon. I think it's unique really to any business. Is that people that whenever they encounter an obstacle, that they are solutions minded rather than looking for a reason to quit. And another huge one is the want to actually help people. Like, whenever we're working with our vendors, the vast majority of vendors that we reach out to initially tell us no, that they're not interested in opening a relationship, that they feel like their Amazon presence is taken care of. And the way that we are able to get around that and really work with those vendors is by providing value. And it's, I think the willingness to want to help others, and that's just sharing our expertise, right? It could be telling them, like, I understand that you guys don't want to work with us right now, but you guys have pretty big holes, particularly in your pictures or something like that. And being able to just give them that point of advice to be able to make their listings better. And ultimately that helps us to cultivate a lot of our relationships. And then the last one, number 5, I think, is probably professionalism. And when people start a business, a lot of times it started out of a hobby or something like that. But if you're very serious about owning a business, you need to run it like a business, and that means using CPA, using an attorney when you need to, setting your business up properly, and all the kind of small things that go along with it. I feel like if you build your business on a rocky foundation, it's going to cause you a lot of issues in the future. So I think to be a successful business, you have to do those things up front.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
It really, for us, it's definitely been relationships and network. That's always been kind of a point of focus for us, as we realized that pretty early on that we're limited to our own knowledge, but we're also limited to the way that we think about things. So early on, I remember, when we had transitioned to the wholesale model and we were starting to look at creating relationships with vendors. I remember I talked to another seller in the industry. We were at a conference, and I talked to him, and he just had such an amazing outlook on how vendor contact should go, like, how you can move some of these people from that no to yes camp and stuff like that. And when we started employing that, like, we saw immediate growth in our business. And that kind of propelled us to want to build stronger networks so we could grow with other people's knowledge as well.
What is one thing that no one knows about you?
I actually can't. I mean, honestly, this is a great question, because I can't think of a single thing. A pretty open book.
What grounds you?
My kids wanting, like, it really is. My kids are kind of my world, and just the being able to see them grow up and how they think about things is just unbelievable. Like, whenever I talk to my daughter, whenever she comes to work, or whenever we're talking about, stuff at home, business, she loves talking about business already. And that's because I anytime she asks questions, I love to answer them. And I love it. She's been here hundreds of times and got to see how our business operates. It's just, my kids are definitely the thing that ground me, and kind of seeing them grow up and become individual people.
Okay, in your businesses, do you have a mentor or a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. We're part of several masterminds. I think being, that's plays back into building our network and making sure that we're always learning. Absolutely. We're in several different masterminds and spend literally, tens of thousands of dollars a year just to make sure that we're learning, we're continuing to learn more and grow.
What is the most valuable thing your mentors or your coaches has told you?
Honestly, it's for us, it's always been mindset. And one of the it's just moving. It's consistently moving forward. And it seems like every person within our network, like all the markedly successful people, have a dedication to taking action. And that's one of the things is, early on, it was hard for us because whenever we would fail at stuff, we hadn't failed at enough things yet to really understand that feeling. And working with some of those people has helped us understand that failure is not necessarily a negative. It's always a learning experience.
Tell us about breaking down Amazon's bestseller rank and how you can use this to grow your business.
Absolutely. So Amazon's bestseller rank it's literally a linear representation of how well products sell on Amazon. So, for example, the number one product in books is the number one selling book on Amazon. And then a product with a sales rank of 1,000 in books is the 1,000th best selling product on Amazon. Well, that doesn't tell you necessarily anything that would help you find winning products, right? But they're free softwares. We actually use a free software. It's called junglescout.com/estimator. And you can go plug that sales rank in on their website, and it'll give you a very, very good estimate of how many times per month that product sells. Now, whenever you have that data, right, you have I know what it sells for, I know how many times it's selling. You only need one other piece of information to know if you can make money with that product, and it's how much I can buy it for.
Tell us a bit more about renegotiating. You touched a little bit about that for new beginners.
Sure. No, I mean, that's I think this plays into any business, not just Amazon specifically. It's for us, whenever we negotiate with vendors, it's about value. We want, you have to realize early in your business, I don't care honestly what your business is, that everybody is not your customer. Everybody is not the person you're intended to work with. And it's better to find those relationships that have value both ways, right? Like you get something from it and they get something from it. So whenever we ultimately find those types of relationships, we try to provide a lot of value and make sure that we're able to get our prices down. Now, with negotiating, there's multiple tactics, right? Like you can, we utilize a lot of, in our business, projected orders, and that's giving people a live example. I think that's one of the things that, you watch something like Pawn Stars or something like that, and you see those kind of negotiating scenes, and it's always that dickering back and forth of, I'll offer this and give this, and it's very rarely do our negotiations ever go like that. And instead, what we do is we try to provide cost models and real life examples of why we need the products at the price we do.
Let's talk about your training course, the wholesale formula.
Absolutely. Our course is an actual blueprint of what we do in our business on a day-to-day basis that makes it operate. It covers, how to find winning products on Amazon, to how to set up and contact vendors, how to provide those values, how to negotiate to make sure you're getting the best possible price, and then how to grow and scale that business using automation and hired help. And effectively, that's what we've done, over the past few years. Like I said, we were working at one point, I'm pretty sure we were working 70 and 80 hour weeks consistently for our business. And then whenever we focused on rebuilding it and rebranding and kind of dialing into our strengths. What we found is that through systems and processes, we've been able to get mine and Eric's involvement, particularly down to under an hour a week in that business. So that's what our course is. It's real life examples. We don't teach what we don't understand. It's really just a walkthrough of what we do and how we were able to grow and scale our business.
And who is this coaching for? Someone who's starting, someone who's in the middle? Who is this suitable for?
It's kind of crazy because people always ask the question of is this a beginner or it's funny because it's complete. I think that's more of the answer is our course is not just not just a body of content, is an actual blueprint of our business. So it is, we have lots of beginners who can take our course and just get started and do absolutely incredibly well. And it's because our course is so complete. Likewise for, our veterans, we actually have sellers in our community that do significantly more in sales than we do. And, they're able to, what they're able to do is they're able to take our processes and improve their existing processes and see massive growth.
Okay, so how much is this course and how can we access this course?
Well, our course actually isn't, it's funny because we don't we're not traditional marketers. We like to take in groups of people at a time. That way we can educate them through the process, because our course is more about producing success stories than producing more sales, honestly. So our course is closed the vast majority of the time. But I mean, if anybody wanted to learn more about it, they can at thewholesaleformula.com/journey. And we set up specially for your audience just so, but it's that'll kind of like bring them into our sphere. But when it is for sale, our course is $3,000.
Great. And how long is the course?
It's a 6-week training course, but all of our students in the past have had lifetime access to our course, so it's constantly evolving. I think we're on like the 8th or 9th version of our course, and that's because we've changed it every time we change our business.
And how can we connect with you?
Just go to our website, thewholesaleformula.com/journey, or see us on Facebook, facebook.com/thewholesaleformula.
So, Clan, there will be more from Dan in a moment. If you are listening on one of the many podcasting platforms rather than my website and you are encouraged by Dan's journey, go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for a bonus portion of the interview. The Online Success Journey is a wonderful membership community built for people searching for the path to success. We are one big clan and you can be part of this community for free. Once you have joined the clan, click on part 2 of Dan's journey or over 150 other journeys that are available and learn how you can find the right path for your own online success journey. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and done.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com. filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.